Hello minions, welcome back to the channel. Devildrive here, and we are back on my brand spanky new series. This is the Far Cry 5 map editor tutorial. Now I've been meaning to do this for a long time. I've been making maps for years now. Way back when on the Far Cry 2 days, when they first released the map editor, I've got lots of maps on there. Incidentally, if you do have Far Cry and you want to check out some of my maps, especially Far Cry 2, you can check them out. Just type in Devildrive into the map search and they'll come up and you can play to your heart's content. And if you do check them out, leave a little comment and let me know what you think of them, because it's always nice to get some feedback. What you're looking at now is my latest map. This is called Asylum Island. You can download this from the map search in Far Cry 5. This is kind of an exhibition map. This is a kind of map that I made just to show a few tricks and techniques, just so that people can see, oh, you can do some cool things, like the fog here, for example. This was actually splash that you used in the waterfall, but I laid it underneath the ground, and the mist comes up. That allows you to place fog in specific areas, rather than having a blanket fog effect around the entire map. So there's silly little things like that. This particular episode is going to be concentrating on mountains. A lot of people have asked me how you do this, how you do that, and so this is how I make realistic mountains. Now, a lot of people have been saying, oh, you can use this technique, or should I use this technique for mountains, or what should I do? I mean, it's very simple. You'll find a few techniques and you just repeat those techniques. They're basically layered one on top of each other. And I'll show you that exactly how to do that now. So there's a few tools you're going to need straight away. In the terrain tools, the very first thing you're going to need is our old favourite, bump. You're going to need bump to get the basic foundation. Then you're going to need noise, erosion, and the last one will be smooth. They're your four tools you're going to need. Obviously you're going to need to paint the thing too. So in the paint textures, you've got 4 different paints that you can apply. I only really use 3 for mountains. I'll use a rock, I'll use a kind of like a mossy or a grass texture, and I'll use a dirt texture, which is what I'm going through now. It's not amazingly important initially, because you can change them after you've painted them. After you painted the mountain, you can change the actual textures themselves to get a better judge of what kind of mountain that you want to go for, whether it be a snowy one or whatever. So the first thing you need to do is bump up the terrain, as you're seeing now. What this does is it gives you your foundation to work off of. So this is important because you need to know what type of mountain first that you're going to be creating, whether it will be a volcanic mountain like this one is that I'm making, or it might be a collision mountain, or a active fold mountain if you want to get technical, like the Himalayas. Mount Everest, for example, that is a collision mountain or an active fold mountain. So you have to have a rough idea of what you want to do first. So after you've got your bump, you're going to have a nice big radius initially, and then you're going to shrink the radius down. And what that does is it puts little bumps on top of your big bumps. What that does is, again, is it gives you a different texture. Now it does look like a bit of a mess at the moment, but don't worry about that, because we're going to go in with noise now. Now what noise does is it takes some of the map, it raises some and lowers some others. After you've done that, you want to go back in with smooth to take off all those rough edges, and then back in again with noise. So what you're doing is you're layering technique on top of technique on top of technique. Then you want to go with erosion. Erosion was specifically built for this type of thing. As you can see, it's making little lines, so it will literally erode the thing to make it look like the terrain has been eroded over millions of years. When you get about halfway though, that's usually when I like to paint. I tend to put the paint on about halfway, so that then when I'm crafting the actual mound itself, you can raise specific pieces and it will come together. It will look more like a mountain as you're creating it. That will give you a better idea about, oh, this bit needs to be higher, or this bit would be cool, I can make a little valley down here, because of the way the paint is put in. Now the first thing I tend to do, you can do this in any order, you don't really have to do what I do. I do it like this just because I'm stuck in my ways and it's the way I've always done it. The first thing I tend to do is find a rock. I want a good rock, Like I say, it's not too important that you find the ones that you really want to keep with at the beginning, because when the thing is built, you can then chop and change the different textures, depend on your taste, really. I mean, how you really want it. So you're picking out your textures. At the moment, I've got a good rock. I want a good kind of dirt texture. I want a good moss texture too. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. Okay, so once you've got your 3 textures or your 4 textures, depending on how you're doing it, first thing you want to do is just make sure that the rock is the right rock that you want to use. And then you make a big radius like this, and then just cover the whole thing. Now, depending on what mountains you're doing, if you're making collision mountains like the Himalayas, like Mount Everest, you probably want to start with a rock, because they're going to be more rocky than they are anything else. In this case, because I'm making quite a flat mountain, I'm going to be using dirt first. So I'm just slowly tweaking the type of dirt that I want to use. This one's too orangey, the other one was too light, so I want a nice dark one. Again, too orangey, so I'm just tweaking it out just so that I get a nice looking mountain as I'm creating it at the beginning. And then later on when it's finished, then I'll tweak it and get it perfect. Again, too light, so I want something nice and dark. I'm going to go with dirt dark too, because it is in the name. So once you've done that, then you want to cover the entire thing, everything, just like that. And once you've done that, then you want to shrink down the radius, pick what the rockier one, and then just, with the rock, what I tend to do is I just go over very lightly, so you can turn the speed down and the hardness down a little bit. What that will do is it will allow you a little bit more control over the painting process. And then you just want to take the the flanks, just the steepest bits. The bit that you know nothing would grow on, it's just a sheer rock face, and then it will look like this. And now after that, you want to go in again with your moss. I find this moss, as you can see, is too orangey, too light for me, so I want to change that up. I'm just going to take that moss, I'm going to change it to something a little bit darker. That's a little bit too orange for me, so I'm going to go with something maybe yeah, again, that's too light, that will blend into the rock too much, so just tweak it. When you're doing this, it's good to find a good medium at the beginning when you're first starting it. As I say, you can always change it at the end. So there you go, I'm going to go with grass dark 1, because that's a nice dark colour. And then again, you just want to take the tops, just like this, just the tops. Anywhere you think is kind of a flatter bit, that'll be where like moss or grass will grow. But it will also come down the side of the flanks a little bit, so anywhere that isn't a sheer cliff you want to kind of cover. Now as regards to the speed, you can have the speed turned down. What that will do is it will slowly paint the texture onto the actual canvas. You can, once you get used to it, keep the speed high and just slowly feather the, in this case, the PlayStation 2 pad. Just pull the trigger in very, very slightly and it will slowly apply the paint. That will allow you, once you get that technique down, to quickly apply paint in certain areas, but then lightly apply it in other areas without having to go into the speed and change it all up again. But if you're new to painting or you're not that good at it, you can just turn the speed down. It's very simple. Okay, eventually you should end up with something looking a little bit like this. So once you've done the green bit, that's your time to big the radius up a little bit and then just very lightly go over with everything else. Go over again with the dirt, go over again with the rock, go over again if you have to with the grass and the moss, very, very lightly. That will give it just a little bit of light coming through, a little bit of texture just coming through. And then once you've done that, you can go in again with the smooth and the erosion and the corrode and build it up. So you're doing the same techniques over and over again. And you should end up with something that looks a little bit like this. Now I'm not entirely happy with it, there's too many bumps for my liking. So what you can do at this point is you can use the map editor's erosion tool and you go in again, and this is what you get. That erosion tool makes everything look so much good. Now the game does have a border of mountains. So this is called a backdrop. There's lots of different types of backdrop. There's an Arctic one with Arctic snowy mountains. There's a cityscape. This particular one is just a mountain range. So I've used that to shape the last little bit, then you'll end up with this. This is my mountain. What I've done is I've tried to blend it into the background as much as I can. It still needs a bit of work. It is not perfect. It's not designed to be perfect. It is designed to show you the techniques that you use to make a mountain, a more realistic looking mountain. So with that technique works for everything. If you want to make giant, great big Rockies or Himalayan style Everest type mountains, that technique still works. You just pull up the bump at the beginning a little bit higher on each bit, and then you'll end up with a more pointier structure, and then the same technique works. And if you like it, why not put a waterfall in it? Because why not? These are some other mountains you've got. So these here are the Himalayan style mountains. They're otherwise known as collision or active fold mountains. And to get this effect, it's very simple. We use a technique in the paint texture. And right at the bottom here we have minimum and maximum slope. You can see that the maximum slope degrees is maxed out, and then the bottom bit, we'll knock this up a little bit. And what this does is it paints only the angles of what you set it to. So the first thing you do, like you see, you cover it in snow because that's the thing you want to be most predominant, and then whack up your slider. So that will only, in this case, paint texture onto 50-degree angles, just like this. It's a great little way of doing mountains like this. I didn't use it before because the area is quite flat, and I like to get in there with the paint and I have a little bit more control over it. But this technique definitely works for that. If you wanted to use this, all you do is you move your maximum slope down a little bit, you move your minimum slope up a little bit, and then you can do more flatter ranges. But it's good to practice with this, play about with it. As you see at the moment, the bottom bits of rock are not coming through, so we've changed the sliders up, we've tweaked it a little bit, and then we've got these cool little rocks at the bottom. So it's a little bit of tweaking. It's a much quicker and easier way of painting big mountain ranges, and that's how you do it. There you go. So I hope that helped. So very soon I will be doing another video on paint textures, so keep an eye out for that one. So that's it for our tutorials on the mountains. I hope this tutorial really helped you out. I hope there's some tricks and techniques in there that you didn't know about that you could utilize in your own map making. I've always wanted to help people out with things like this, and I'm glad I got the opportunity. I should have done this a long time ago. So if you do leave a comment, let me know whether or not they helped or not. If you want to check out some more of my stuff, you can check me out on YouTube, obviously. This is Devildrive Games. You can check me out on Twitter at Devildrive Games also. And I do a lot of streaming on Twitch, so you can check me out there if you want to at Devildrive PS4. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a like, share, subscribe if you wanna. And as always, I'll see you on the respawn.